Have you ever walked into work and felt a quiet sting you didn't deserve, a subtle smirk, a dismissive tone, a coworker treating you like your presence was optional? Moments like that can feel small, yet they linger like dust on the mind. Over time, they test your patience, your worth, your calm. But there is a way to rise above without noise, without war. A way the Stoics understood well. Stay with me, and let's uncover it together. As we step into the first chapter, imagine this moment with full clarity. It is an ordinary morning at work, the kind where the lights hum softly and people move through routine without thinking. Then it happens. A look that lingers half a second too long. A smirk that isn't overt enough to call out but sharp enough to feel. A comment disguised as humor, yet designed to belittle. These things do not crash into you loudly. They slip under your skin quietly, and the weight of them stays even after the moment ends. Now imagine you pause right there, not because you are confused or shaken, but because you are finally aware. You watch their behavior the way a traveler watches a distant storm forming, noticing the color of the clouds, the shift in the air, the signs that trouble has nothing to do with you. Disrespect is almost never born in the present moment. It leaks from whatever battles they have not resolved within themselves. And this is where the Stoics quietly meet you. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and when someone acts from insecurity or envy or inner chaos, the shade they reveal is theirs alone, not yours to carry. I once worked with a man like this. Let's call him Harris. He corrected people mid-sentence to feel superior, dismissed ideas without hearing them, and only showed charm when someone powerful walked into the room. For a long stretch, I wondered whether I had done something to earn his attitude. But the truth revealed itself slowly. He treated everyone the same way. His disrespect was not targeted, it was habitual. It spoke of something fractured in him, not something lacking in us. This is where Seneca's warning becomes useful. We suffer more from imagination than reality. In the workplace, imagination often shapes the deepest wounds. You begin imagining they see you as less capable, less worthy, less intelligent. But when you strip away the stories and look with stoic clarity, you see that their treatment of you is simply a symptom of their own unrest. And symptoms are not proof. They are signs, signs of fear, signs of envy, signs of frustration they refuse to face. So the first way to outsmart disrespect is not retaliation. It is recognition. When you no longer personalize their behavior, something shifts quietly but powerfully inside you. You stop absorbing their tone. You stop internalizing their comments. You stop letting their chaos rewrite your worth. Instead, you become the observer, and observers do not get dragged into battles that are not theirs to fight. And when you rise into that vantage point, a different kind of strength appears, not loud, not aggressive, but steady, a strength that says their storm is theirs and your clarity is yours. Holding that clarity is the beginning of mastery, because the moment you stop letting their disrespect define you is the moment you reclaim the power they thought they held. From here, everything begins to change, and the next chapter will show you how to turn that clarity into composure they cannot shake. Moving into the second chapter, picture the room again, but from a different angle, as if the camera pulls back just enough to reveal a truth you didn't notice before. Silence has weight. It doesn't shout, it doesn't defend, it doesn't justify. Yet somehow it bends the air around it. And in a workplace where disrespect often arrives wrapped in noise, the ability to remain calm becomes a form of strength people cannot explain but instantly feel. Have you ever watched someone lose their temper while the person they're attacking stands still, almost untouched, like a stone that refuses to crack? There is a strange kind of authority in that stillness. It unsettles people more than anger ever could, because when someone expects you to react and you don't, you deny them the victory they came for. You take away the script they were hoping to follow. And this is where Stoicism steps in with its steady hand. Epictetus said that any person who can upset you becomes your master, which means composure isn't just a virtue, it's liberation. The truth is, disrespect thrives on reaction. It needs it. It feeds on it. The person who speaks sharply wants to see you flinch. The one who mocks you gently in front of others waits for your embarrassment. The coworker who interrupts you expects you to stumble. They're not just asserting power, they're testing it. They're checking whether you will hand over control of your emotions. And when you don't, something very real happens beneath the surface. The balance shifts. They realize you are not as easy to provoke as they thought. They see that their tactics fall flat against someone who refuses to take the bait. Your composure shows them that their tactics have no weight against you. I once witnessed this with a woman named Leah, someone who wasn't loud, wasn't aggressive, wasn't the type to dominate a room. Yet she carried a quiet focus that made people straighten their posture when she walked by. One afternoon during a project meeting, a co-worker, clearly irritated, cut her off mid-sentence and tried to dismiss her idea. The room tensed, waiting for her to fight back. But she didn't. Instead, she paused, placed her pen down gently, and looked at him with the kind of steady gaze that says everything without saying anything. Not anger, not fear, just clarity. The room shifted. The man stumbled through his next few words, and once he finished, she calmly repeated her point, word for word, without raising her voice even a single notch. No one forgot that moment. It wasn't loud, yet it echoed for weeks. That is calmness as strength, stoic strength. It's the understanding that you cannot control someone's disrespect, but you can absolutely control the quality of your response. When you stay composed, you don't just protect your dignity, you expose their lack of it. And that exposure is far more uncomfortable for them than any comeback you could deliver, because a disrespectful person is ready for a fight. They are not ready for a wall of stillness that refuses to move. They expect heat, not cold clarity. Calmness is a strategy, a shield, a weapon. Not in a violent sense, but in the sense that it disables the attack before it lands. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. And in a workplace setting, that means refusing to become loud because someone else is loud, refusing to mirror disrespect simply because it was shown to you first, refusing to let someone else's chaos drag you out of your center. You win by staying who you are, not by becoming who they are. But calmness is not passivity, it is presence. It is the choice to respond from strength instead of impulse. It is the internal reminder, I decide the standard of my behavior, not them. And when you hold on to that, something powerful begins to unfold around you. People notice, not always visibly, but internally. They respect what they cannot shake. They remember the person who kept their voice steady when others were losing theirs. They recognize emotional discipline as authority, even if no one says it out loud. Here's the real secret. Calmness unsettles those who rely on intimidation. They expect resistance. They expect defensiveness. They expect emotion. When they meet steadiness instead, they lose their footing. They question themselves. Sometimes they retreat. Sometimes they soften. Sometimes they grow cautious. But no matter how they react, the dynamic changes in your favor. And that shift opens the door to the next step. the one that allows you not only to withstand their disrespect, but to redirect the entire interaction without raising your voice. Because once you master the art of staying calm when someone tries to provoke you, you're ready for a deeper level of Stoic strategy, the kind that sets boundaries without saying more than you need to and redefines the space you stand in. From here, a deeper layer of the Stoic path begins to unfold. Advancing to the third chapter, picture the moment right after calmness has shifted the room. The air feels different, as if someone quietly closed a door on all the noise. And it's in that quiet that a new kind of power rises. The power to draw a boundary without raising your voice, without explaining yourself, without surrendering your dignity. Because after seeing disrespect clearly and holding your composure firmly, this is where you begin shaping the space around you instead of letting others define it. Now imagine this scene. You're at your desk, focused, steady, doing your work with a clear mind. Then someone approaches, the same co-worker who tests your patience, who pokes at you just to see how you react. They lean in with a smug tone, maybe pretending it's a joke, maybe pretending it's harmless, but both of you know it is neither. And instead of letting that old frustration rise inside you, you breathe once, feel your feet against the floor, and choose something different. You choose clarity, not confrontation, not argument, but a boundary drawn in a calm voice they didn't expect. Boundaries spoken without emotion are sharper than anger. They cut cleaner, they land harder, and they carry a quiet finality that tells the other person, this line is real. This is where the Stoics guide us again. Epictetus taught that no one can impose anything on the person who governs themselves. Boundaries, in Stoic language, are not walls built from pride. They are gates built from reason. They don't shout, they define, they don't attack, they protect, and they don't need justification, because virtue does not ask for permission to stand upright. A boundary spoken in calm truth is one of the purest forms of strength. I once knew someone who embodied this perfectly, a colleague named Ria. She wasn't loud, she wasn't forceful, but she held a presence people respected. One day in a team meeting, another co-worker talked over her 3 times in a row, dismissing her points with the kind of condescending smile that pretends to be friendly. The room grew awkward. Everyone felt the tension, but no one knew how she'd react. After his third interruption, she simply placed her notebook down, waited for him to finish, and said, in a quiet tone, free of anger, "I'm speaking now. You'll get your turn. No edge, no hostility, just truth." The room froze, then shifted. And from that day forward, even the loudest voices stepped back when she spoke. Not because she demanded respect, but because she made it clear she would not participate in disrespect. That is Stoic boundary setting, calm, precise, without apology. When you draw a boundary this way, you do not fight for power, you clarify where yours begins. And the remarkable thing is this: the person who tries to disrespect you usually respects boundaries more than they respect people. They may ignore kindness, they may ignore logic, but they do not ignore firmness delivered with composure, because composure is hard to challenge. It has no cracks to attack. It refuses to give them the emotional reaction they crave. Here's where this becomes even more powerful. When you set boundaries without explanation, you teach people that your time, your space, and your dignity are not open for negotiation. You teach them that you are willing to be respectful, but not submissive. You teach them that while you do not seek conflict, you will not avoid clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best defense is to be the kind of person who cannot be harmed by insults, because one's worth is rooted internally, not granted externally. Boundaries honor that truth. They transform the workplace from a battlefield into a map, one where your territory is marked, understood, and protected. But boundaries are not just sentences. They are stances, a straightened posture, a calm breath, a decision not to indulge provocation. When someone tries to corner you with sarcasm, the boundary might be as simple as "I'm not engaging in that." When they demand your time without respect, it might be "that won't work for me." When they attempt to undermine your work, it might be "this is the direction I'm taking." Short, clear, final. Boundaries spoken this way reveal something people rarely expect. They reveal discipline, and discipline commands respect far more effectively than emotion ever could. Here's the deeper truth the Stoics point us toward. Boundaries free you from being ruled by the behavior of others. When you define your limits with calm clarity, you begin choosing who you allow into your mental space. You begin shaping your environment through intention instead of reaction. You begin protecting the calm you worked so hard to build in the previous chapter. And once people know your limits, they often adjust, not because you force them to, but because clarity leaves no room for misunderstanding. At this stage, you stand in a different position than before, not defensive, not reactive, but grounded. You've seen through their disrespect, you've held your center, and now you've drawn the lines that protect your peace. The next question becomes, how do you use silence itself, not just boundaries, to turn their behavior against them and make them reveal who they truly are? And that is where the next chapter unfolds. Here's where the fourth chapter unfolds, and the air feels different now. Quieter, as if the noise of conflict has begun to thin out. The boundary you set in the last chapter still lingers in the room like a closed door, but now something even more subtle rises in its place. Silence, not as absence, but as intention. This is the kind of silence that makes people shift in their chairs without knowing why, the kind that reveals more truth than any argument could force out of them. Now imagine this moment. A coworker who has tried again and again to undermine you suddenly finds that their usual tactics have lost their grip. Their sarcasm doesn't spark irritation anymore. Their pokes fall flat. Their interruptions don't rattle you. And so, out of habit, they try again. They make a cutting joke in front of others. They roll their eyes. They drop a comment meant to provoke. But instead of firing back or explaining yourself or defending your worth, you answer with silence shaped by choice. Not passive, not defeated, just steady, present, unmoved. There is power in that kind of silence, heavy power, ancient power, the kind Seneca hinted at when he wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Silence is that delay. It is the space where their disrespect is forced to stand alone, without your reaction to shield it from the truth. It is the mirror they must face themselves, and mirrors, when held at the right angle, uncover everything. Let me tell you a moment that proved this to me. I worked with a man named Collins, someone who lived for clever insults. He had a talent for sliding disrespect into conversations as if he were seasoning food. Subtle, quick, intentional. One morning in a team discussion, he tried to corner me with a mocking question meant to embarrass me in front of our manager. The old version of me would have defended my point, explained myself, maybe even matched his tone. But I didn't. I just looked at him calmly and stayed silent long enough for his own words to echo back at him. The room turned still, people shifted in their seats, and in that silence, the weight of his behavior fell squarely on him. He tried to laugh it off. No one joined him. That was the day I learned this truth. Silence exposes what noise tries to hide. Stoicism understands this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind adapts and shapes itself to whatever it focuses on, and when you refuse to feed someone's hostility with reaction, you force them to face their own state. Your restraint becomes a kind of light, and their behavior becomes a shadow. And shadows look darker when the light is steady. Silence makes people see themselves. And many don't like the reflection. But let's go deeper into why this matters. People who rely on disrespect rarely have real arguments. They rely on emotional disruption. They want speed, not substance, escalation, not clarity. They expect you to react fast, loud, defensively. When you don't, they lose the ground beneath their feet. Your silence slows the moment down, and when things slow down, truth surfaces. You see who is insecure, you see who is unstable, you see who is performing confidence instead of living it. Silence uncovers it all. And here's the part most people overlook. Your silence is not for them, it's for you. It's the space where you protect your dignity without wasting breath. It's where you choose strength without performing it. It's where you reclaim the conversation without fighting for control. Silence lets the other person reveal themselves, but it also reveals you to yourself. It shows you that you don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need to match their tone to prove your value. Silence says, I have nothing to defend. And that is power, real power. Now think of moments when someone said something cruel to you and you reacted quickly, regretting it moments later. Contrast that with the times you stayed silent and watched the situation shift in your favor without effort. Silence doesn't just diffuse conflict. It clarifies the battlefield. It shows you who attacks without reason. It shows you who expects submission. And it shows you who fears your calm. But silence has another use, one even more strategic. It forces the other person to fill the space you choose not to fill. People often talk too much when they're uncomfortable. They reveal motives they tried to hide. They expose insecurities they tried to mask. They say things they didn't intend to, and in those unintended words, you find the real truth. Silence, used wisely, is not the absence of power. It's the amplifier of truth. From here, a new question emerges. If silence reveals their intentions, then what reveals their influence over you? What shows whether their disrespect still sneaks into your thoughts, shaping your internal world even after the moment passes? And that question leads directly into the next chapter. Entering the 5th chapter, picture the moment after silence has done its work. The room has settled. The person who tried to provoke you is left standing in the echo of their own behavior. Outwardly, everything looks calm, but inwardly, a different battle begins, the one inside your mind. Because even when disrespect doesn't break you on the outside, it often tries to slip in quietly, looking for a place to stay. Now imagine walking away from an uncomfortable interaction. Your posture steady, your tone controlled, your expression firm. You handled everything well. But once you're alone, a small voice inside asks questions you don't want to hear. Why me? Did I do something wrong? Did everyone see that? That voice isn't harmless. It's the beginning of self-doubt. And if you let it grow, disrespect succeeds long after the moment passes. Stoicism teaches us that we are harmed less by events than by the stories we tell ourselves afterward. And Marcus Aurelius warned us clearly, your mind is your kingdom. Guard it. I once saw this happen to a man named Rowan. He was smart, thoughtful, and disciplined. During a meeting, a senior co-worker abruptly dismissed him with a wave of the hand. Rowan didn't react. He didn't argue. He stayed steady, but later I found him alone at his desk, replaying the moment in his mind. He whispered, almost to himself, "It shouldn't bother me, but it does." That was the trap. The disrespect ended in the meeting room, but the wound continued inside him. This is what we must outsmart. Not the insulting comment, not the rude tone, but the echo it leaves behind. Because replaying the moment gives the other person power they never earned. Ruminating becomes a chain, and internalizing their disrespect becomes self-inflicted harm. Stoicism offers a different path. Refuse to give permanent space to temporary behavior. Refuse to mistake someone else's weakness for your inadequacy. Refuse to let their voice replace your own. A single moment should never become a story you tell against yourself. When someone disrespects you, the reality is simple. They acted poorly, but the story you create afterward becomes dangerous. Maybe they were right. Maybe I'm not respected. Maybe I'm the problem. This is imagination distorting truth, and you must cut it at the root. Instead, you practice what the Stoics called proper assent. You choose what you allow to enter your mind. You choose which impressions to accept and which to discard. Their disrespect does not define you. Your response does. Their behavior is their character. Your clarity is yours. When you remind yourself of this, you stop absorbing their words. You stop replaying their tone. You stop letting their moment become your identity. The real secret is this: internal detachment turns external insults into dust. Once you train yourself to say, "Their conduct is theirs, my worth is mine," the dynamic changes completely. Their words lose weight, their tone loses impact, their judgment loses authority. You become mentally untouchable. And nothing unsettles a disrespectful coworker more than realizing they cannot reach you even in your thoughts. At this stage, you are no longer fighting to protect your peace. You are ruling it. And from this inner command, a new question arises. If their disrespect can no longer touch your mind, how do you turn your presence into something that silently reshapes the entire dynamic? That is where the next chapter leads. At this stage, picture yourself moving differently in the workplace now. Not louder, not tougher, just steadier. There's a weight in your presence that wasn't there before, the kind that doesn't come from confrontation, but from the quiet certainty of someone who no longer absorbs disrespect or carries it home. And it's here, in this new stillness, that another Stoic truth comes alive. You do not need validation from those who cannot see your worth. You do not compete for approval in a room that hasn't earned your effort. You rise by stepping out of the games others try to pull you into. Now imagine a familiar scene. A group stands near the break room, trading gossip, subtle jabs, or complaints about whoever isn't present. You walk by, and one of them tosses a remark meant to hook you into their circle, their drama, their noise. Something in you almost reacts out of habit. But instead, you pause internally, see the moment for what it is, and keep walking. No anger, no explanation. Just distance chosen with full clarity. That single step away is not avoidance, it's sovereignty, because the Stoics understood this well. Whoever pulls you into their chaos owns a piece of you. Whoever you try to impress becomes your judge. And whoever you seek validation from gains power over your inner state. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be free, desire nothing outside yourself." In a modern workplace, this means refusing to measure your worth by the reactions of people who have not mastered themselves. It means working with excellence without begging for praise. It means staying professional without bending your dignity to fit someone's ego. And it means recognizing that those who disrespect you often want one thing: a reaction, a sign that their opinion matters more to you than your own judgment. But you're past that now. Let me share a story that illustrates this shift. I once knew a woman named Talia, brilliant, precise, always the one who delivered results without fanfare. But she had a co-worker who loved to throw little darts at her confidence, calling her too serious, too quiet, too focused. Everyone expected her to defend herself, to try to prove her personality wasn't a flaw. But she never did. She simply continued showing up, working with consistency, mastering her responsibilities. She didn't argue. She didn't justify. She didn't play the game. And slowly, something interesting happened. The co-worker's jabs sounded more insecure each time he tried. Eventually, people stopped laughing at his jokes. They stopped taking his comments seriously. Because while he was busy trying to win attention, she was quietly winning respect. That is what happens when you stop competing for validation. Those who need it look small next to you. This quiet confidence is not arrogance, it's discipline. It's the understanding that your value doesn't need their approval to become real. You stop chasing their recognition and start embodying your standards. And people notice, even the ones who pretend not to. Here's the deeper shift. When you no longer look outward for affirmation, you become unmanipulable. You cannot be baited. You cannot be controlled. You cannot be diminished by someone else's tone. Their opinion becomes a passing sound, not a command. And your sense of direction becomes something they cannot influence. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "Stand upright, not made upright." When you stop needing external reinforcement, you become internally anchored, steady, unshakable, and this creates a new dynamic. The person who once disrespected you begins to realize they have no leverage, their comments don't land, their tone doesn't sting. Their attempts to provoke fall into silence. You do not rise to their bait because you have risen above their importance. The moment you stop playing their game is the moment they lose their power. At this stage, you're not just calm, you're sovereign. You don't respond to every challenge because not every challenge is worthy of you. You don't chase their approval because you respect yourself more than they ever could. And when they no longer influence your inner world, you begin moving through the workplace with a form of quiet authority that naturally leads to the next question. How do you transform this inner strength into an outer presence that commands respect without demanding it? That is where the next chapter takes us. Entering the 7th chapter, picture yourself moving through the same workplace that once felt tense and unpredictable, yet something in you has shifted. Your steps are steadier, your presence feels anchored, people sense it even before you speak. This is the quiet turning point. The moment when calm, discipline and clarity start shaping how others treat you without you having to demand anything. Now imagine the contrast. A co-worker who once belittled you still tries from time to time, but the room reacts differently now. Their jokes don't land. Their tone feels off. Their comments sound more insecure than clever. Meanwhile, you barely say a word. You don't need to. Your consistency has done the talking. This is the Stoic victory. Not defeating someone, but making their attempts to diminish you collapse under their own weight. When you rise internally, their noise loses its power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be the person your principles demand." In the modern workplace, that means letting your work ethic, calmness and reliability create a reputation stronger than any insult. Instead of fighting for respect, you embody the kind of presence that naturally earns it. Excellence becomes your quiet armor. Integrity becomes your influence. Strength becomes your language. And disrespect struggles to breathe in the space around you. I once knew a man named Elias who proved this perfectly. He worked among loud, competitive co-workers who mocked him for being too quiet. One especially arrogant colleague constantly tried to embarrass him. Elias never reacted. He didn't argue or justify himself. He focused on his craft. He delivered results. He supported others. He stayed grounded. Over time, people began turning to Elias, not the loud co-worker, for guidance and clarity. The loud man's influence dissolved. His noise simply couldn't compete with someone whose actions spoke with steady force. Elias didn't win through confrontation. He won through character. That is the essence of Stoic presence. You rise not by pushing others down, but by standing taller through your own discipline. You become someone whose behavior elevates the room instead of poisoning it. And through that contrast, the disrespectful person exposes themselves without you lifting a finger. Here's the deeper truth. When you act with consistency, others adjust around you. They speak more carefully. They listen more closely. They treat you differently because your presence demands it, not through force, but through the undeniable weight of self-respect. You become the one person in the room whose calm carries authority, the one whose silence isn't weakness, but clarity, the one who doesn't need noise to be heard. At this stage, you're no longer surviving disrespect. You're dissolving it, not through strategy alone, but through becoming someone they can't diminish. This is how you outsmart disrespect the Stoic way. You hold your center. You choose your standards. You let your work and discipline define you. And slowly, the workplace reorganizes itself around the gravity of your character. In the end, the most powerful way to win is simple. Become unshakable. Become consistent. Become excellent. Become the presence that commands respect without demanding it. Because noise may attract attention, but character keeps it. And from here, the only question left is how you will carry this quiet power into the rest of your life and shape your future with the same calm strength. When you choose clarity over reaction and calm over chaos, something powerful begins to shift. You stop letting disrespect shape your identity and start shaping the way you walk through the world. That is the quiet strength the Stoics trusted. The kind that does not need noise to be real. If this message stayed with you, you can stay with the journey too. Feel free to subscribe so these lessons continue to meet you at the right moments. And before you go, share your voice in the comments with a simple phrase like, "Stay calm," to anchor this mindset in place. Remember this. Your presence becomes stronger the moment you decide to rise without resentment and move forward without carrying what is not yours. You deserve to work and live in a way that protects your peace and honors your worth. Keep choosing that path each day, and when you are ready, the next video will take you even deeper into the art of holding your power without losing your kindness. I will see you there.